So good morning and good afternoon to everybody, and thank you, Justin, for the weather forecast from Boston. We have the same spring day here in the UK, delighted to say. So good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to the April Bootcamp. My name's Peter Ford, VP of Global Alliances and Channels for Acquia, and I'm joined by some guests this morning who will be taking you through some very interesting topics indeed. We'll firstly hear from Karen Wood and Eric Fullerton about the cookieless future that we're all beginning to have to come to terms with, and the implications of that in terms of how we treat our customer data and nurture those relationships. And then we'll follow that with a session from Mark Royko about Acquia Practice Certification. Now, I do want to draw your attention to this in particular. It's not to say that Karen and Eric's won't be interesting, because it will be, but Mark's session is important in the sense that, as you'll appreciate, we've been revving up a lot of the activity around the partner program over the last couple of months since the launch. And one of the key aspects of this is making you aware of the shift in focus from certifying just the individual to certifying a practice around our platforms. Most specifically, the newer elements of the portfolio around Site Studio and Site Factory, Campaign Factory, and even the CDP as well. So this is a really important message that I want you to take on board, because as we start to see, as you know, we've focused the program to be very much aligned to a partner involved in every deal, and it's important for us to know that if we're doing that, the partners have gone through a minimum level of training and so on related to not just the Drupal cloud, but also the marketing cloud as well. So this messaging is vitally important, is to know how to begin to start that process, and Mark will take you through that a bit later on. So and of course, at the very end of the session, we'll be having today's quiz, which will be all about the content that you'll be hearing about today. And as usual, that's sponsored by Amazon in the form of a $50 Amazon voucher. So I hope everyone can look forward, hold on to their interest until we get to that thing, and see if we get some plenty of right answers. And with that, I will pass the presentation responsibility across to my colleagues, Karen and Eric. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Peter. My name is Karen Wood, and I'm the Senior Director of Product Marketing here at Acquia, focused specifically on our Marketing Cloud products. And I'm joined by Eric Fullerton, my colleague.
Yeah, Eric Fullerton, Lead Product Evangelist at Acquia, and working with both Marketing Cloud and then across our DXP solutions as well. So Karen, I'll pass it over to you to take us through the cookieless future that we're all planning for today.
Sounds great. Well, thanks everyone for coming to today's partner webinar. We hope this presentation is interesting and useful as we talk about planning for a cookieless future. So quick summary of who Acquia is. We were founded in 2007. We're a leader in the open digital experience platform, or DXP space. And you might ask, what is DXP? What is a digital experience platform? Well, it's all about unlocking the value of content and data. So we provide brands with the tools to create and manage omnichannel experiences. So today we're talking about data. So let's actually start by level setting about the kinds of data that brands are dealing with. There are really three types that we're going to be talking about here today. One is third-party data. So this is typically anonymous data leveraged primarily for advertising and acquisition use cases. And third-party data is very much connected to this cookie world, or soon-to-be cookieless world that we're talking about. In that, again, you don't know exactly who the customers are, but you might have third-party data in cookie pools or in audiences that you can buy or sell or use to, again, try to attract and acquire certain types of customers. First-party data is owned by the company. That is data that the company collects on a user, and typically a known user, where they can actually tie back activities that that customer has done into who that individual is. CDPs, for example, customer data platforms, are focused on first-party data and unlocking the value of first-party data. And then zero party is sort of in the family of first party data, but it's emerging as its own thing, in part because what zero party data is consumers are explicitly opting in, telling brands, I would like you to market this to me. I am interested in this product. If you think about when you first signed up for Netflix, however long ago that was, Netflix asked you to choose what types of movies you like to watch, what types of content you want to see, and willingly you give that information. So that's also known information about a customer, but it's considered zero party because it's explicitly opt-in with the goal of consumers wanting to be marketed to. So that's kind of the landscape of the types of data that marketers and brands deal with when they're trying to deliver experiences to customers. But there's a crazy shift happening in the market right now. So one shift is consumers' attitudes. I mean, the fact that zero-party data is even a thing that brands are trying to figure out what to do with shows these shifting attitudes, and there are really kind of two things at play. One is that most consumers, so in this report by Cisco, 84% of consumers say they want more control over how their data is being used. And 79% of Americans are concerned about how their data is being used by companies, and that's a Pew Research study. So brands are worried about it. They want to make sure the data is being treated, as it should, but at the same time, they are comfortable sharing personal information directly with a brand if it leads to personalized experiences. So there's a willing to give as long as they get. So as long as brands are trustworthy and using their data as they should, then consumers want to have that data exchange relationship with them. And, kind of in light of that, or in response to that, really, there have been new compliance regulations, or relatively new at this point. In the European Union, we have GDPR enforcing privacy, basically respect of consumer privacy, and giving consumers the ability to opt out of having their data collected and used in ways that they don't comply with. California has followed suit with their own Privacy Act, the California Consumer Privacy Act, CCPA, and there are many more on the horizon happening all the time. So this is the new reality of consumers will have the responsibility to treat customer data as they should, and that trend is not going away. And then lastly, there's this third trend, which is basically the demise of the cookie. So a couple of examples. One is that Google has announced that they're no longer going to collect cookie data in their Chrome browser. Now, Chrome is the most common browser used, so that's going to really change the access that brands have to that third-party cookie data. So rather than, again, relying on those cookie pools, relying on those anonymous audiences, there's just not going to be as much data collected. So it's going to be really difficult to, align your marketing strategy with cookie data collection. And then also Apple has announced that they're going to be having features within their iOS to alert consumers to new, or when privacy is going to be, when their data is going to be tracked to, again, help brands, help consumers have more control over their data themselves. So lots of things are shifting in the market. And for marketers, it actually represents a possibility, a great opportunity, if you will. So I would say 5, even 10 years ago, the DMPs that help enable marketing use cases based on third-party anonymous data, there's still a place for them, but they're not going to be as strong because there's just not as much data to trigger off of and segment audiences off of and actually use to do marketing. But the opportunity is that, especially given that consumers are more willing to share data now, to actually tap into that. And if brands can actually align and create a first-party data strategy with their business, they get a ton of benefits. You can reduce, ad spending that you're spending on audiences that aren't going to engage with you in the first place. You can become more profitable. You can acquire, customers who are going to be customer longer with higher lifetime value. Just generally, if customers want to engage with you and those are the customers you're engaging with, you're going to increase customer loyalty, lifetime value, engagement, and all of that. it'll make you smarter as a business because you'll have the data that you need in order to make business decisions. And of course, ultimately, you are delivering to consumers the experience that they want because they have engaged in that relationship with you. And then Boston Consulting Group has a really interesting stat I found. So companies that link all of their first-party data sources together can actually generate double the incremental revenue from a single ad placement, and 1.5 times the improvement in cost efficiency over companies that have not done the work to really put a first-party data strategy in place. So things are changing, but there's a lot of opportunity as well. And the opportunity from a consumer's point of view, again, if a brand is triggering experiences off of unified first-party data, is that consumers are going to have this seamless, consistent, very elegant experience as they interact with brands from one channel to the next. If it's in person, in a store via clienteling or a call center or email, aligning your first-party data actually goes much farther than just traditional ad tech use cases, advertising technology use cases. So a lot of times when we talk to brands who are interested in, how do I do it? How do I set up a first-party data strategy? We really recommend that they start with use cases, because use cases will dictate the data that you bring together, your unification strategy, how to segment and understand your audiences, and what to do next. And actually, and Eric will talk more about this later, but when we work with you, we'll kind of build out a roadmap of what is possible. So for example, if you want to personalize in-store experiences, well, then you'll know what data you need to unify and where you need to send that intelligent data in order to create those experiences. Or if you have, kind of a churn problem or retention problem, you want to reactivate customers who are likely to churn. If you have unified data and you really know who your customers are, then you're going to be able to activate that campaign a lot more successfully. Same with product recommendations, acquisition, all of it is better if you're using first-party data to power those experiences. Now, there are endless amounts of use cases that can be powered by a first-party data strategy. All the way from acquisition, conversion growth, through to retention and back around again. There is no end in sight in terms of what you can do with a first-party data strategy, and that's why it's really important to again help counsel and guide brands as they work through this and try to develop their strategy. It is not going to happen overnight. It will be a crawl, walk, run approach. But again, the possibilities of what can be unlocked for brands is really limitless. It's just a matter of prioritizing and mapping out the use cases that are important for the business. So if we go back and think about the customer journey as it exists today in our world with cookies, it actually was kind of imperfect in the first place. So imagine a customer, goes to the website, they, interact on their mobile, they go to, check out a product, or maybe they abandon something in their product. You're collecting cookie data all along the way. The challenge is, you know some things, but you don't know everything about the customer, and you critically don't really know who that specific customer is and really what makes that customer tick and what will get that customer to come back and become more loyal and actually engage with you over time and increase their lifetime value over time. So you are collecting data, but you're also a little bit blind because you just have, again, the anonymous profile, and then you have these isolated instances where that data was collected. And so if you go to the next thing, it actually compounds a little bit. So you're collecting data from all of these different sources. You don't truly know who the customers are. And then that data goes and sits in a bunch of repositories. So it'll sit in your email service provider system. It'll sit in your personalization system. It'll sit in your data lake or your data warehouse. It resides, but it resides in these kind of siloed technology. Additionally, the teams that want to use that data are also siloed. So the data is not talking to each other, and the teams aren't really talking to each other either, because different teams own different systems and different parts along that customer journey. So again, you have the data, it's not a perfect view. And then when you have the data, it's kind of divided up across all these different systems, these organizations, and so forth. So we like to think about it in terms of, I heard it through the grapevine, Marvin Gaye, one of my favorites. You know, again, you kind of know, you heard about customers wanting this, or you think you know segmentations, but it's really just gossip, you might say, at the end of the day, of, you know, piecing together what you think you know, what other teams or other data points might have told you. You're hearing it through the grapevine, but you don't necessarily truly know who that customer is. So think about that, play that forward. You can't analyze your customers. You can't activate the data to engage with customers, or if you do try to personalize off of that data, it's not going to be totally correct, because you've only heard it through the grapevine. Anyway, so yeah, so this actually becomes exponential because of all of those silos, of the team silos and the data silos, and then the cookie data where you don't exactly know who the people are. It's just living in different areas. It's truly, truly impossible to, you know, maximize the profit of your marketing campaigns, maximize the happiness of your customers as you engage with them in different channels. So it is a tricky problem. The good news is, again, back to what I was saying at the very beginning, consumers want to engage with brands. So they are opting in, they're linking their ID to their cookie data. They're telling companies, you know, market to me, I want to engage with you, and here is my data. But if you aren't responsible with your first party data strategy, and they give you that precious, precious data, and it then goes and lives in some silo somewhere, well, you're not taking advantage of the true opportunity. So we need to harness this data that consumers are giving us so that we can operationalize it and, you know, make it effective. And then just a couple more points before I hand it over to Eric. So, I mean, this system that we're in, again, at this moment of transition, moving from third party to first party approaches to data, you know, the legacy way that, you know, how we got here is that we were thinking too much about that endpoint integration, or that endpoint of how we want to engage with customers, and not enough about just getting that data in the first place. So by overly relying on how are we going to touch these customers, and not enough on, well, who's the customer in the first place, that's how we ended up here. So we're really recommending that brands take a data first approach to this instead of an activation first approach, which basically starts with what we think is the right foundation. Who are your customers? And then use that information to power experiences. Now, it's easy for brands and marketers and everyone to say, yes, I know I need to do this, but if you go to the next slide there, yeah, I know it's important. I'd like to put a wheel on this cart, but we're way too busy pushing this cart. It's really hard to stop those old habits and move on to a better way. But again, it's on us as Acquia, as our partners, to really help brands get there and work them through how to build up that strategy. And in the end, they will get to a much narrower funnel, because again, you know who the customer is, so you're able to nurture them along the way in exactly the right way, rather than the old funnel, which is let's just acquire everybody and then a ton of people will drop through the funnel. Much more efficient, profitable, and better for the consumer to do it the new way, which is a streamlined funnel. And so in the end, you know, it's all about building trust, making experiences count. Customers want experiences with their brands that they trust. Build that trust. Use the data to have them opt in and give you even more information about themselves. And empower your customers. Have them, you know, give them the incentive to want to opt in, to want to give you zero party data and let you use and leverage their first party data. You know, take advantage of this moment here. And then finally, of course, at the end, it's not really an option, because you have to comply with the privacy regulations. I mean, it's now, you know, this momentum and this market shift is actually, you know, codified in law. So we need to adhere to customers' privacies. It's it's the right thing to do, it's also what's legal. So with that, I will pass it over to Eric, and he will dive into a little more detail about how Acquia specifically can help solve these challenges.
Awesome. Thank you, Karen. That's great level setting for this conversation, because one of the things we know is that there's this fundamental shift happening, like you talked about. There are these objectives that we want to achieve, the way we want to treat data, the way we want to engage and connect with customers. But the way that our traditional systems are set up today, as you've kind of really alluded to, is that they're really not designed to do this. And if you try to use one of these other systems to solve this problem that it's not designed for, it's going to not result in that data first approach that we kind of talked about, because all these systems, they are disconnected. They have and serve different specific functions to help your marketing activities. So if you have a system that's designed to be a CRM, it's designed to be a CRM. That's the problem that it's trying to solve. Same with DMPs, or same with data lakes. They're not solving the fundamental problem that Karen really just highlighted at the high level. And this is where the customer data platform space and vendors and technology really comes in. And this is an evolution of some existing technologies that have taken place. And it's kind of a grown-up version of some of these technologies as we've started to see and experience these shifts. And I'm not going to read out the definition from Gartner to you, because I hope folks have a pretty good sense of what we're trying to get at. But it is all about that unification of customer data to ensure that you're really going to be able to deliver on that promise that Karen was speaking about earlier, because other tools aren't necessarily designed to do this. And they're not going to help solve some of those new challenges that we're going to see once we have a world without cookies. And this is really about CDP. You can really closely relate it to CDP is going to help you with your first party data strategy, right? That is one of the fundamental functions that it's going to solve for. It's one of the things that it's actually purpose built to help with. So that's really why, we've seen in the marketplace, there's all of these really exciting things happening. It's a very confusing and interesting space, but there's lots of different vendors. I think there's 80 plus different vendors say that they have a CDP. But really, if you ask Gartner or others, it's pretty much 20 who have an actual CDP. They even meet only those baseline criteria and qualifications. And there's a couple different aspects of meeting those qualifications to actually be a true CDP. And one part of this is really being able to optimize and really work for all of those different teams that Karen talked about earlier when we think about the organizational silos that sit in, right? It's not just about technology and data stitching, which is a really important aspect about it, but it's actually across your entire team and organization, whether you be an analytics person, maybe you're in data science, or whether you're a digital marketer, it's going to provide those insights across all of these teams. So you're not just solving the data silos problem, you're expanding into solving that organizational challenge. So I want to talk a little bit about Acquia CDP, and I'm going to show a couple of proof points around this later, but really the ideal solution is something that, yes, solves for those data challenges, it solves for the organizational challenges, but there's a couple different aspects here. And the reason I like this level setting is because the marketplace is so confusing and challenging today. We have lots of different vendors who are CDPs, others who are calling themselves CDPs that aren't really CDPs. We've seen, Gartner's getting dozens and dozens of inquiries every week about data, customer data, how to manage these things. And there's a couple different areas where we think, our CDP and Acquia CDP specifically, and overall Acquia's marketing cloud is going to provide real value, not only in terms of solving first party data strategy, but delivering on that agreement or exchange that you have with customers. And the first is around this total 360 customer view. And this is something where everyone loves to talk about being able to provide a single customer view, but very few can actually deliver on that. Data democratization, this is a term that we actually, our customers use when we talk to them, being able to share and access data across the entire organization. So it's not just a tool that's stuck within IT, or there aren't just reports that marketing gets. And being able to have machine learning. Now, machine learning, of course, another one of those terms, and we're in this complex space. Everyone likes to say machine learning combined with single view of customer, but machine learning is really about helping scale and execute your marketing activities, but it also is something that's constantly siloed in IT organizations or data science teams. And with our CDP, and I'll talk about this in a minute, it's really about opening that up across your organization so that more people can access machine learning capabilities out of the box, but also your teams can create their own algorithms and bring those in. And then when we think about a complex vendor ecosystem with lots of different, things changing in terms of expectations and definitions and new guides and validation, being able to work with someone who has the expertise in specific industries. And we've been working for over 16 years in the CDP space, doing CDP before it was called CDP, but also the scale to deliver on a lot of these challenges, being able to meet the requirements and the demands needed. And then, of course, having all of these things integrated into one holistic system. So a lot of times we'll have solutions that are CDPs or their marketing clouds or the multi-channel marketing hubs or whatever they may be, but being able to unify the data across all the solutions that you have and being able to do so with our solution out of the box is something where we're starting to see a lot of people really find value in having that done immediately from an analytics perspective and from a data perspective, being able to get that data and enrich your personalization activities and your any type of multi-channel marketing activities with the rich data and insights that you get from CDP, as well as the machine learning that can sit on top of that. So let's talk a little bit about how we get to that single view of customer, the well-known and something that everyone talks about being able to do. But I want to just kind of, pin down a little bit why this is not so easy to do, and maybe some areas where we feel really confident about our ability to help solve this challenge. So when you look at a single view of customer, this is really what it looks like. And this is what it looks like in our platform, right? You can see there's one specific individual. You can see information about address. You can see their lifetime transactions, their lifetime value. Here you're actually looking at some machine learning specific segments that they belong to, taking a look at all the events and activities that they've participated in, seeing multiple different emails from them. But if you didn't have this view of customer, it would kind of look something like this, right? So multiple different purchases, maybe there's a credit card purchase, they go as a mobile guest, purchasing a new loyalty card, abandoning carts, all these specific activities at those points of the journey that Karen talked about. And maybe with cookies, you'd be able to kind of stitch part of it together and maybe think that this, you can have a lot of different records in here, and you can see that we have lots of different customer records, and it's good to be able to catch and understand what those potential records might be. But this isn't an accurate or single view of customer. And with identity resolution, you can really get a total 360 view of customer. And this is our IRE engine, something that's proven, tried and true. And it's the way to turn all of these interactions into that single view of customer. And I could keep talking about product stuff, but really it's about how customers see value from this. And Lululemon is maybe one of the best examples that I've ever seen around being able to resolve identities and get a single customer view. I'm sure, and I hope folks are very familiar with Lululemon. They have hundreds of different stores all across North America, and they're bringing in data sources from all of these different places. And it's really challenging just to marry all those data sources together into one. And they had 68 million records from raw data before working with Acquia and before working on the total 360 view that we're able to provide. And then once that went through that engine, they're at 18 million unique IDs after deduplication. So being able to identify those single view customers, and you can think just the opportunities around, can you imagine how many incorrect emails you may be sending if you have 68 million customer records, how many contrary messages you may be delivering, rather than being able to minimize that funnel. And this is really a lot of what, when we're trying to get folks down the funnel to communicate with them really, really effectively, making sure that you don't just send more messages to them, but send them fewer messages that are appropriate and correct, because we all know how many messages we get every single day from brands, but fewer, more effective messaging. That's really the goal of an effective first-party data strategy. And that's just part of it, because when we think about the challenges for teams, for organizations who are trying to deliver on this, I mean, you can think about how expansive a marketing team might be, and beyond that into the IT teams. Maybe there's a data science team. There's teams that are responsible for specific product lines. And for them, having access to really good data is a constant challenge. Maybe you're pulling reports every day, or you're trying to reach out to someone to create this custom report so you can build a campaign effectively. And one of the things that our customers find the most value in is actually being able to share that view, that single view of customer and the analytics around that across their organization, but not just do so in one specific way, right? So you may have a management view, like something for maybe marketers that you would up level to your CEO. In fact, Hugo Boss, one of our customers, you know, they're able to actually use this for, you know, up level conversations with their board or other folks like that. Being able to, you know, not just be able to look at it from a marketer's perspective, but really across the organization, you get that dashboard view. But then you also have these views for your marketing teams and for your IT teams and your data science teams, which means that they're accessing this information and accessing this insight only from places that they would want to interact with it from. And that's really important. It's not just being able to have one place to view all this, but to have people able to view these analytics and insights in the area that makes sense for them. And from a scale perspective, I always think this is really interesting, because scale, when we think about collection of data, about processing of data, and being able to meet the most and biggest and most important events is really critical. I mean, this is just a representation of our platform, Acquia CDP, and just the amount of, you know, interactions and transactions that it processes every single day. I mean, we're looking at 112 billion events every single day, making sure that you're aligning your first party data strategy, really the future of the way you're going to analyze and understand customer data across your organization, with someone who's actually proven and tried and true and trusted it can do that. 21 billion transactions. And then when we think about AI predictions, 1.4 billion predictions a day for machine learning and AI. And then when you think about the customer success is another piece and part of this story. So when I think about enterprise scale and experience, well, yeah, of course you want to be able to deliver scale and process all those events and do things from a machine learning perspective. But the best result is, in terms of proving your expertise, is successful customers. And this is just a representation of some of our customer base and some of our public facing customer examples. We actually just added another one to the list today in J. Crew. There was some content and stories there about some of the success metrics there. But following through the Lululemon example, 15% increase in baseline revenue, seeing, you know, Lids running one single campaign and seeing 250K in revenue from that win-back experience. Other customers across the board seeing really great results from our solutions. And what we actually did is, because while we love these public-facing customer stories and case studies, we also averaged the ROI and the KPIs for our entire customer base based on our close interactions and connections with them. And we were able to do some of our own data and analysis on the average result for Acquia customers for some other specific metrics like click-through rates or return on ad spend. And you can see just from top to bottom, and this is an average of our entire customer base, not just those specific examples, we're seeing really significant increases across the board. And when we think about CDP and first-party data, we love thinking about ROI. But it's not just about ROI in terms of providing and delivering value to your organization. There's also an operational efficiency benefit here. This comes with having that single view of customer. It comes really with the unlocking of the different data and the reports and analytics that you get across your organization. And so this is something that I think is really important, because as we start to think about the benefits, yes, ROI and revenue is attached to that. Being able to re-engage very effectively, being able to not just think about, you know, acquiring customers, but creating loyal customers is a part of that story. But really being able to increase the operational efficiency across your organization to do marketing campaigns more effectively. And that's really being able to, you think about the difference between just a customer list for a direct mail or for a specific campaign that our customers are running on Facebook, from 3 weeks to 30 minutes overnight, just because they're able to use this solution and actually get those access to those insights, which is obviously really important. And one challenge around this is that we often will think that it can seem like a lot of things to do, and it can seem a little bit scary and a little bit daunting when you're trying to figure out your entire data strategy. But the important part is, Karen mentioned this too, we'll really as an organization work with you and work with our partner organization to help identify what that maturity model and roadmap is. And this is something we'll be able to do jointly for a potential customer, but then really mapping and understanding where their maturity level is, and then really getting to the right place for them with all of these different actions associated with it in terms of where their specific maturity level is at. And just one last thing around the validation. It is a little bit challenging today to get that validation around CDP and to see this from a market perspective. And we've seen, there's a critical capabilities list from Gartner and a bunch of other things, but the CDP Institute does this real CDP audit, and the Acquia CDP was the only one to get check marks in every single feature category. So that means, to me at least, it is the most fully featured CDP on the marketplace today. So in terms of use cases that tend to be maybe a little bit more complex, more forward thinking, being able to do things not just for, that you want to run with an email campaign over the course of 3 months, but really starting to think about complex use cases and being able to build on a really strong first party data strategy to solve your marketing goals. This is something that's really important, having the flexibility, not just to deliver on today, but on tomorrow as well. And this all sits within Acquia DXP and really specifically within our marketing cloud. The only reason I'm mentioning this is because it is integrated out of the box. You can see here just a really quick representation of this before I close it out. And I'm happy to talk more about how this works today. But the first thing you do when you acquire companies, it could just be to try to sell a lot of them. What we did was integrate them out of the box from day one. And that's where our customer data platform, Campaign Studio, and personalization are all integrated at the data layer today. And we've actually just announced some integrations around analytics as well, so that you'll be able to get campaign analytics from personalization that are powered by our customer data platform. So really exciting stuff around that. I'm happy to take other questions, but I know that we want to get to Mark because the stuff that he's going to share around our partner program, the progress that he's made there and how to engage effectively with us, really critical for everyone on the line.
This is true. Before we go to Mark, Isaac has asked a couple of questions, which we can. I'll let you do your switcheroo thing on the screen there. But Isaac was asking, who would you say our top competitors are in this space around CDP? I have a view on this, but I thought I'd ask my learned colleagues.
Eric, I can jump in if you.
Yeah, go. We can. You, Peter, me, we can all do it. But Karen, why don't you take the lead?
Well, there are different types of competitors. As Eric mentioned, the landscape is kind of messy. A lot of people say they're a CDP, but are they really a CDP? It's a hot term, so that's something to be careful of and aware of. If you look at so basically the categories are, there's marketing clouds that have just started to develop CDPs. So they're a little bit kind of late to market, but they're working on it. They have some data stitching capabilities. I would argue not a true CDP. There's also a bunch of kind of out of the box cookie cutter CDP styles that, again, are not, they try to be one size fits all, but they only fit the needs of some smaller kinds of companies. And then there's CDPs like what Acquia provides, which is, as Eric said, best of breed, fully featured, and includes a lot of analytical capabilities, machine learning and stuff on top of it. And so within that, there's a list of competitors we could drill into, but that would be my response. It kind of depends on which landscape you're talking about.
Yeah, when it's one of those things of when is a CDP really a CDP, or that what do you mean by a CDP? But Isaac and everyone, just in order to cut to the chase on this thing, the most frequent people we're compared to are Salesforce, who don't really have a CDP, Adobe, who don't really have a CDP, and Telium, who do, but they're coming at the thing from a tag management perspective predominantly, right? So and there are some other players as well, and Timo's jumped in with what about SAP? Well, actually, to be honest, Timo, we haven't had a situation that I'm aware of where we've been in direct competition with SAP related to this yet. So we haven't had that street fight. But thanks for asking. Right. Okay. Welcome. Okay. Moving on quickly, won't keep you waiting, Mark. So Isaac also answered the question about where does in the architecture, where does the data sit in all of that? Eric, can you cover that quickly?
Yeah. Do you want us to respond in the Q&A or in the chat, just so we
you
can
could do it in the Q&A. Yeah, just in the interest of time. And there's also a question there from Suleiman as well.
Yep.
About early warning system for employee risks, etc., measuring the most valuable assets, etc. Yep. So if you're able to just comment there as well.
We'll jump in on the Q&A so we can get moving with Mark.
Yeah, and yeah, a view on Exponia, and answer is yeah, I can understand why you're asking that question, but again, to be frank, we've just not seen him as a competitor thus far. But anyway, all right, so we'll continue monitoring that. With that, Mark, you're in the hot seat. Over to you. Let's talk about practice certification. And as you know, this is a vitally important thing from my perspective, so I'm hoping that you can share all those wonderful pearls of wisdom with this audience here.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks, Peter, and thanks, Eric and Karen. It's definitely been a transformative time for us, and I'm really happy that you partners were able to join us for this part of the conversation today. This is something that I think is going to be really transformative for the partner program as well, and for partners in particular. I want to give you a glimpse today of a program that's, I think, super important and really exciting, sincerely. And it's this concept that we have of certifying full practices. Before we jump in, I want to set the table a little bit by telling you a story. Speaking of transformation, a couple of weeks ago, I was lucky enough to get my second dose of the vaccine, and I was coming back from the pharmacy, and it was this beautiful sunny day in Chicago, and no clouds in the sky, birds were chirping, and I stopped and I went into this park before I got home, and I sat there and I just started thinking about things, and it was just like, what just happened? What just happened? It was, you start looking back at the time that we had in the last, 13, 14 months. I remember being on a call with some of the partners early on in the pandemic, back when Zoom meetings and Zoom cocktails were just starting to be a thing, and people were just scratching their heads, wondering what they were going to do next. This was back in March. But what happened was a lot of these companies actually started making big investments in their technology. I mean, they transformed themselves. We see that with the clients, and they started looking at different ways to bring in new data, to really start thinking about re-platforming their systems. They made investments, they reinvented themselves. Now, it's hard to believe this, but 18 months ago, Acquia didn't have a marketing cloud. Think about that. We've introduced all of these products that are really aimed at not just being more products, but products that add value to partners. Your ability to deliver these products increases your value to clients. It increases your profits. It extends the length of engagements. And we've done this not just in Marketing Cloud, but we've done it in the Drupal Cloud too. We made some transformative changes. We've really invested in the developer experience, like with Cloud IDE and with Site Studio, right? Marketing Cloud just takes those engagements, those Drupal Cloud engagements, that bread and butter work, and it extends that. It gives you more value to your clients. Now, that's a lot of products, and there's a lot to learn there. So we have this role, my role, which is leading practice development, helping you guys connect the dots, between Acquia and all the different ways that we have to help your teams deliver better, to make these engagements stronger, right? And when I first started in this, I started talking to different people from around the company, people in learning services, customer success, professional services. And one of the things that I found that was a common thread was that our success is based on your success. We want our partners to be successful in their engagements. We want these things to be predictable. We want you guys to be able to deliver effortlessly, time and time and time again. Our success is built on your success. Now, one thing that we've done, we've really invested over the last year, just as companies are investing in their platforms, we're investing in our platforms, but we're investing in ways to train you to make sure that you can deliver these products. Technical mastery is at the heart of the Acquia experience. We offer 24 different certification exams for developers, 24. And these exams are, look, they're not a profit center for us. Our exams are based on helping your development teams, your engagement teams, really learn the products and be able to deliver. Now, if you guys have ever worked with me before, and I've worked with many of you, you'll know that I always start drawing this line. There's a straight line connection between the number of certified developers that you have on a team and how successful you're going to be with your engagements. Right now, for example, we measure the types of tickets that development teams turn into our customer support team. And the more certified developers that you have on staff, the more likely it is that you're not going to be filing tickets. And when you do, the urgency is less. The time to resolution is faster. What does that mean? It means you're more profitable with more certified, technically trained developers. You become more valuable when your teams can deliver. But what's missing, right? We have all of these programs for individual developers. And for a long time, I mean, everybody thinks about, well, certification, that just means, our teams can deliver, right? But when we talk to partners, we find out that there's like a number of missing links. I know you guys know this. I mean, you've been working with Acquia for a while, or you wouldn't be on this call. But there are things about like, look, how do we really make sure that our partners can deliver the products that we have? How do we make sure that they can prove that they can actually make this stuff work and that these engagements are going to go well? And you're also asking for things like, we have this particular expertise in vertical A, we're in FinServ, we're in healthcare, we're in data management, we're a bread and butter Drupal shop. How do we prove that? How do we come up with more market differentiators? And also another thing is, look, we'd love to learn how to use Marketing Cloud. We'd love it. We don't know where to start. What do we have to do? And we need to get up to speed right away. And then also, like, how do you just stand apart? So I'm really, really proud of this program. We have this concept now called certified practices. And this is something that we're working on. Again, this is not live now. It's coming down the road. We hope it's going to be in Q3. But let me explain to you what we're looking at, just to give you a glimpse. Now, you know that we have two clouds. Drupal Cloud, which is our bread and butter work with Site Studio and Site Factory and the entire Drupal developer experience, right? Then we also have Marketing Cloud. Well, to make this stuff work, we're going to offer you a chance to get certified in just the Drupal Cloud, just the Marketing Cloud. Now, together, there's also going to be the penultimate, the Certified DXP practice. This is where you can combine the best of both of these clouds, and you can integrate with other products, and you can deliver at the highest standards. This is reserved for our partners who can really lead their clients through a transformative experience. It's not going to be easy to make, I can tell you that. The certification standards are rigorous. And your ability to deliver these technologies, you have to be perfect at it. What's it going to look like? Well, for example, we're going to base certification on several different criteria, right? And this is just like we're spitballing here, so put a giant asterisk in this because this is not set in stone. However, here's the way that we're thinking. So let's say that, for example, that you want to set yourself apart as a certified Drupal practice. Well, there'll be a combination of different engagements that you do during the previous year. We'd like to see you have Grand Masters or a combination of certified developers across all the different types of exams that we offer in Drupal Cloud. We want to encourage you to make contributions to the community. Now, this can happen as IP or module development or thought leadership. But we're also going to add one other thing to this, and this is where the rubber hits the road, folks. We want to make sure that your clients will vouch for you and say, yes, these people exceeded our expectations, and that's how we're going to earn these certs. Now, that's just Drupal Cloud. Marketing Cloud, is, I'm sure you understand, is a slightly different animal. right? Now, this stuff will be releasing what the qualifications are and how all of this and the nuts and bolts, how all of this is going to work. We're going to be releasing this over the next couple of quarters. However, we do know this, there's going to be 2 paths to earning certification, earned and learned. With earned, if you can deliver these things and you already have these qualifications, guess what? It's very likely that after we talk to some of your successful engagements, you can become, for instance, a certified Drupal practice, right? But let's say that you're that shop and you start looking at Marketing Cloud and you start saying, guess what? We really want to get into this new sort of consultative engagement, and we don't know where to start. Well, guess what? There's also a learn path. And learn path just means, look, you want to rapidly ramp up your development team. You can arrange for workshops, paid programming. We'll give you certification vouchers so that you guys can actually take your exams, but you can rapidly get up to speed. And then you can work with us to deliver these Marketing Cloud engagements, right? Finally, when you put it all together, we're going to have certified DXP practices. And that is going to really be a major market differentiator. Now, one other thing I should say quickly, we also have the idea of qualifications that are based on verticals. So you can be a certified Drupal Cloud practice or Marketing Cloud practice. And then there is also going to be a way to say they're also certified as a specialist in, say, healthcare, FinServ, whatever. So that will give you a market differentiator. Now, this is a lot of work. We know that. What are the benefits? Well, let me tell you about some of the benefits that we're kicking around right now. And these are things that you guys have asked for. And I think they're really serious. You know, we looked at a lot of different programs from different competitors, different people within this industry. And we said, we really want to build this into a world-class program. So we need to offer our partners benefits that they cannot get elsewhere. If they're going to have this level of commitment, we're going to reward you for it. So these sort of things are, look, we've said we're going to bring a partner into every deal, and we've already started doing that. Some of you have already been beneficiaries of that. But to have you have those high value qualified Acquia leads, we want you to prove your expertise. And that will make things different for you. You're going to be the first people your clients go to, our clients go to help deliver these projects. We want to support your dev teams as well with more access for your developers to understand what's happening with the products, technical bulletins, right? We are also going to give you a lot of different market differentiators in terms of marketing. So we have a planned partner marketplace. We have the partner finder. Obviously, we're going to promote these logos, your certification process in that, and give you assets and access to more marketing tools. So this is going to be really valuable for you to pursue. Next steps. Here's what I'd like you to do. As I said, this program's coming down the road. It's not out yet. And there's going to be 2 paths for getting it. You can get it through earned or you can get it through learned. Now, when you earn it, you get that with very little effort. So what I would tell you to do right now, start building your engagement teams, especially in Marketing Cloud. Start looking into those programs like, look at Campaign Studio. It's a terrific product. Look at Campaign Factory. Also go into like the certification.acquia.com and look at the number of certified developers who are in, say, Campaign Studio. It's minimal. There's room to grow there. There's room to move as a partner. You should be looking into Marketing Cloud. That will extend your engagements, right? Arrange for training workshops. Look, if you want to ramp up a team quickly, our professional services teams and learning services teams put together workshops all the time for partners. And we can be flexible about how we train you, how you learn. At the end of this, we're going to be sending you out, I guess that there's a link in progress in you. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's supposed to be a link in progress that will actually be a sign-up form. Well, I will keep you appraised of what's actually happening with this program, right? So that's going to be coming later. You can also reach out directly to me. You guys know me. Go ahead and send an email to markroyko@acquia.com, and I will help you, assist you in this program and help develop plans for you. And so that's a start. This is coming down the road. Hopefully by Q3 this year, we're going to have this thing rolling. And with that, I'll just wrap it up.
That's great, Mark. Thank you so much. Now, I know Mark actually covered quite a lot of information there. And if you have some questions, we can still try and take those through the Q&A channel, although one or two of you have reached out through chat as well, and we're trying to monitor all those. But as I mentioned, as we opened this this session today, this is a vitally important aspect of our business, as you'll appreciate, with the shift of emphasis of our trying to ensure that we're engaging partners into the opportunities that we're creating ourselves. Is we need to know that those organizations are familiar with and technically capable of supporting that activity. So this becomes a very important aspect of this. It's not just focused around the Drupal story, it's expanding that horizon and that engagement with us into the Marketing Cloud and the DXP proposition as well. So vitally important, and hopefully you'll be able to, if you have an interest in what Mark's covered here, please reach out to him directly. He takes all forms of bribes to prioritize who he talks to first. But in all seriousness, yeah, thank you for your time today. It's been good to have so many of you join us. I'm not going to stand between you and the all-important quiz, because I know we're at the end of this session now. So with that, thank you so much to Eric and to Karen for their contributions today, and I'll let and to Mark, of course, and I'll let you dive in and see if you can get an Amazon-sponsored voucher, as we always do at this particular point in time. But thank you once again for joining us today.